Hi, this is Rich Formidoni from Korg USA. I'm in the studio with the KingKORG, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the filter section. Of all the unique things that KingKORG has, the filter section is one of the most important. Not only does it have its own unique filters, it's also a playable museum of classic filter technology from sought-after vintage analog synths. So, let's have a listen and see what these filters are like. The first filter I'm going to show you is the MG filter. It's a low-pass filter that's modeled after a very classic synthesizer from the 70s, monophonic analog synth that is pretty much ubiquitous. So to show it off, I've selected a sound that might have typically been created with that kind of synth. So this filter has a very warm characteristic as you sweep through the cutoff range. And as you increase the resonance, it gets a little bit more present. And you can hear all those bright harmonics coming through as you sweep through the cutoff range. Now, one of the neat things about that filter is that if you crank up the resonance near to the top, it starts to self-oscillate. And we've replicated that here in KingKORG. And you can hear even as I sweep the cutoff slowly, there's no zippering effect, there's no stepping, it's very, very smooth. The next filter I want to show you is called the P5. And to show that off, I'm going to call up a sound that's very common for that kind of synth. This is modeled after a 5-note polyphonic synthesizer that is very popular in the late 70s and early 80s. So as we sweep through the cutoff range, we can hear that the characteristic of the filter is a little bit different. And this kind of sync sound, which is another characteristic of that P5 synth, very often has some filter modulation on the velocity, which is what we're hearing here. So let's crank up the resonance and see how it sounds now. Again, very pure through the audible frequency spectrum. The next synth filter I want to show you is the MS20. So let's get to a lead that's called Mini Korg 700. So that's a sound that might have been created on the original MS20. It's very similar characteristics. Now the MS20 filter is very, very known for its sonic voice. So that's the low-pass filter, and when we crank up the resonance, it shrieks at you. I've just reset the sound back to the way it was when it was saved, and what I want to show you is that there's also an MS20 high-pass filter. So it's responsible for that very characteristic squelchy kind of tone that you hear on the MS20. Now, there are also some hypothetical filters in here that didn't exist on the original synthesizers. For example, there's a bandpass filter on the MS20. Crank up the resonance a little bit. So that gives you sort of an approximation of using the physical low-pass and high-pass filters on the MS20 at the same time. Now, another synth that we've modeled here is the OB, a famous expander module. It's been used on a ton of famous recordings, and the filter sounds like this. Again, let's turn up the resonance and see how it sounds. as you can hear lots of cool harmonic overtones going on in that filter. So you'll find different examples of these filters, such as low pass and high pass and band pass, hypothetical versions that might not have existed on the original product. The last type of filter that I want to show you is the acid filter. So this is based on a very, very famous analog bass synthesizer, and I'm just going to show you a very typical sound that you might be making with that particular synth. Here we go. As you might have guessed, that sound is being played with our arpeggio. So I'm going to keep the arpeggio turned on, and we're going to sweep through the cutoff range, and we'll crank up the resonance as well. Now along the way I moved the envelope intensity knob to adjust the amount of modulation based on the envelope generator. There's a grand total of 18 different filter types, so we're just scratching the surface here, but there's lots of great stuff to play with and lots of great presets within KingKORG to explore them with. So every time you choose a preset sound, you'll be able to see what type of filter is being used right there. Remember that you have one filter per timbre, so you can have two different filters going at once. And you can have them modulated not only by the controls that you see here, but by the LFOs, the envelopes, virtual patches, which let you control it by things like the joystick, velocity sensitivity, key tracking, and many other sources. So the filters are really, really flexible and a lot of fun to play with. Remember, KingKORG has a lot of flexible routing options, such as the virtual patch system. So you can use these filters in some really creative ways. Please check out our other videos, and of course go to korg.com/KingKORG for more information. Thanks very much for watching.